I still remember that night, the sterile white lights above me, the soft hum of machines counting down what the doctors called my final hours. They said my body had given up, that my lungs couldn't fight anymore. But they didn't know, faith doesn't check with doctors before it decides to move. The nurse whispered to another, thinking I couldn't hear, "She won't make it till morning." And just like that, they left me in a room filled with quiet pity and the smell of antiseptic. I lay there, weak, cold, and half broken, not just from the sickness, but from the sound of hopelessness in every voice around me. I could hear my children in the hallway. My son said, "We should start planning the funeral. Mom wouldn't want us to wait." My daughter cried softly, but didn't disagree. It was like they'd already buried me while I was still breathing. Lying there, I felt tears roll down the side of my face. Not because I was scared of dying, but because no one believed I could live. And in that silence, I whispered the only prayer I could manage. "God, if you're not done with me, give me one more sunrise." That night, I saw darkness thicker than any I'd known. But somewhere between the pain and the pulse of those machines, I felt something shift. It wasn't a miracle with trumpets or angels. It was quieter than that, like a hand touching my soul saying, "Not yet." And for the first time in days, I slept without fear. When I opened my eyes the next morning, I expected silence, the kind that comes when a soul has left the body. But instead, I heard birds outside my window. Faint, distant, but alive. And somehow, so was I. The nurse gasped when she walked in. "You're awake," she whispered, almost like she was afraid to believe what she was seeing. Her eyes filled with tears as she ran to get the doctor. Within minutes, my room filled with people, nurses, doctors, even the head physician. They stood around my bed, staring like they were witnessing something impossible. One doctor leaned closer and said, "We don't understand. Her vitals are stabilizing." They spoke to each other in confusion, flipping through charts, checking machines, whispering words like spontaneous recovery and unexplainable. But I understood perfectly. It wasn't unexplainable, it was faith. You see, the night before, something inside me had decided not to give up. My body was weak, yes. But my soul wasn't done, and maybe, just maybe, God heard that one broken prayer I whispered in the dark. "Give me one more sunrise." From that moment on, everything began to change. Each breath hurt a little less. Each day, I could move a little more. The nurses started calling me the miracle patient. They said my recovery defied medical logic, that my organs were healing faster than anyone expected, but I didn't need their logic. I had something greater. Every night, when the lights dimmed and the hallway grew quiet, I'd talk to God like a friend sitting beside me. I'd say, "Lord, I know you brought me this far for a reason. If there's still something you want me to do, just show me." And every morning, I'd wake up feeling a little stronger. Not because my body was perfect, but because my faith was alive. One day, my daughter came in and said softly, "Mom, the doctors said they can't explain it. They're calling it a miracle." I smiled weakly and whispered, "No, baby, they don't need to explain it. Some things you just have to believe." That was the day my children stopped talking about funerals and started talking about hope. If you've ever been told it's over, let me tell you, only God decides when it's truly over. Comment "Faith wins" if you believe that too. The days turned into weeks, and each sunrise felt like a small victory, a silent reminder that faith had the final word. I wasn't walking yet, not fully. My legs trembled every time I tried to stand. But I held on to that metal frame beside the bed like it was a lifeline. The nurses kept saying, "Don't push yourself too hard." But they didn't understand. It wasn't just about walking again. It was about proving that God wasn't done with me. Every morning, I whispered a verse to myself. "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." And those weren't just words, they were medicine for my soul. On the hardest days, when pain clawed through my body, I'd close my eyes and picture my grandchildren's faces. I wanted to hold them again. To tell them that miracles are real, not stories in dusty books, but moments written by faith itself. The physical therapist called me stubborn. I called it faith. There were times I fell hard. The room would spin, my heart racing, and the nurse would rush in shouting, "Lay back down." But even as the tears rolled down, I'd whisper, "No, I have to try again." Because faith isn't gentle, it's fierce. It doesn't whisper comfort. It demands courage. And with each painful step, I felt God walking with me. I wasn't moving alone. He was carrying me between every breath, every heartbeat, every trembling inch of progress. Weeks later, something incredible happened. One morning, without the walker, I stood up. My daughter screamed, "Mom, don't." But I took one step. Then another. And just like that, I was walking. The room filled with tears and laughter. Even the doctor who once told my family to prepare for the worst came in and said quietly, "I've been a doctor for 30 years, and I've never seen something like this." I looked at him, smiled, and replied, "That's because you've never seen faith do its work." That night, I sat by the window of my hospital room, watching the stars blink like heaven was smiling down, and I realized strength doesn't come from muscles or medicine. It comes from the moment you decide to trust, even when everything around you says not to. If you've ever had to walk through pain with nothing but faith, type "I believe" in the comments. Let's fill this space with stories of strength. When I was finally strong enough to leave the hospital, the world outside felt different, brighter, softer, sacred somehow. I stepped out of those glass doors with shaky legs but a steady heart. The same nurses who once whispered, "She won't make it," now waved at me with tears in their eyes, calling me our miracle. But I knew this wasn't just about me surviving. It was about why I survived. God hadn't brought me back just so I could go home. He brought me back to tell someone else that it's not over. Not yet. At first, I didn't know how to start. How do you tell people that faith healed you when science had no answers? But one Sunday, when I walked into church slow, but on my own feet, the entire congregation went silent. The pastor stopped mid. His eyes widened, and he whispered, "She's walking." And just like that, the church broke into tears and applause. People hugged me, prayed with me, and asked how it happened. I told them the truth. Faith doesn't need permission. It just needs a heart willing to believe. That moment changed everything. I started visiting hospital wards, sitting beside patients who had lost hope. I'd hold their hands and say, "Doctors can treat your body, but only God can heal your spirit." And you know what? Some of them smiled again for the first time in months. One woman, young, only 29, told me, "They said I won't make it through the week." I smiled and said, "They said the same thing about me too. But I'm still here." She laughed through her tears. That's when I understood my pain had become my purpose. Every scar, every sleepless night, every tear I cried was now a story, one that could help someone else believe again. And when I prayed at night, I didn't just thank God for saving me. I thanked Him for using me. Because miracles aren't meant to be hidden, they're meant to be shared. And sometimes, the greatest gift we can give the world is proof that faith still works. If you believe your story can inspire someone too, type "Amen" in the comments. You never know who might need your light tonight. It's been years since that night, the night they said it was over. Sometimes, I still wake up in the middle of the night and hear the echo of the machines, the whispers in the hallway, the sound of people giving up on me. But then I smile, because I'm still here. You see, I learned something in that hospital bed that no textbook can teach. Faith doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't ask if it's logical, if it's possible, or if it's too late. Faith simply believes, and then it moves. The doctors called me a medical mystery. My children called me a miracle, but I call myself a survivor of grace. Every breath I take now feels like borrowed time, not from medicine, but from mercy. I spend my days helping others remember that their story isn't finished yet. I sit beside patients, strangers, even people on park benches. And I tell them, don't let the world write your ending, only God holds the pen. Sometimes, people ask me, weren't you scared? And I tell them, yes. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing faith in the middle of it. Looking back, I realize something powerful. If I had believed what they said, I wouldn't be alive today. If I had accepted their final words, I would have missed the rest of my story. Faith didn't ask for approval that night. It didn't knock politely. It broke through my despair. It tore through the diagnosis. And it whispered, get up. And when faith speaks, death has to listen. So if you're watching this and you feel like it's over, please hear me, it's not. Maybe the doctors gave up. Maybe your family did. Maybe even you did. But God hasn't. He's still working in the background, even when you can't see it. I'm living proof that one whispered prayer can change everything. Because faith doesn't need permission. It just needs your heart to say, I still believe. If you felt something in your heart while watching this, type I believe in the comments. And if this story touched you, hit that like button. It helps more people find hope, just like you did. Subscribe if you believe in faith, miracles, and second chances, because here, we share real stories that prove God is still in the business of doing the impossible.